Welcome on over to Automotive World, everyone. I am your host, Vinay Mystery, and we have huge news from Nissan for their truck division, not only for the Frontier, as we can see, but this is actually going to also play into the Navara as well. Let's get started with this because during the New York Auto Show, Nissan unveiled some news. It's a little quiet, but we're going to explain it. They're going to be updating the Frontier again. Now, as we know, Nissan does not do full-size or heavy-duty anymore. They're out of the Titan, they're out of the XD. We've always heard talks about them bringing back Xterra and stuff, but really, it's just the Frontier. And honestly, the Frontier is a great vehicle. But during the New York Auto Show, confirmed to Motor Trend, by 2028, Nissan is saying, for the Frontier, they are going to add a plug-in hybrid model. First of all, this is a really big thing for the Frontier. Because when the old Frontier was out, you had two options. You had the V6 and then you had the 4-cylinder. Obviously, the 4-cylinder was not very powerful at all. In fact, it was underpowered. But a lot of people just buy a pickup truck to put stuff in the bed. They don't really haul too much, so they would buy that 4-cylinder because it's more fuel efficient. Now, I love the V6 engine on the Frontier. It's reliable, it's proven, it's a nice engine. But a lot of people missed having that more fuel efficient option. The fact that Nissan is saying they are planning to add a plug-in hybrid model, that can mean a lot of things, because they're not saying they're discontinuing the V6. They could be keeping the V6 and then adding a 4-cylinder plug-in hybrid model, or they could even keep that same V6, do two options. Maybe they do a naturally aspirated option, and they add a plug-in hybrid to it. You get the same power from the V6, you get even more power from the plug-in hybrid, but because it's a plug-in hybrid, you really get some actual true EV range. And if you just drive your truck in the city most of the time, you've pretty much got the best of both worlds, because you got an EV and you got a gasoline engine. So when you go far, long range, you're good. With a small battery like that, you don't have to worry about replacing the battery having an egregious cost. Or maybe instead of doing two engines, maybe Nissan takes the current VQ V6 that they have and just add a plug-in hybrid to that. Either way, this is huge news for the Frontier, and this is huge news for pickup trucks in general of this size, because like I said, if I was buying a Frontier, one of the biggest reasons I would buy it over Tacoma or anything else is because it has a V6. But for a lot of people, they love the Frontier and they don't need that V6, but they want to have a usable truck that's durable, reliable, has a bed. They're just going to go to Home Depot and stuff like that. They just need something fuel efficient. So the fact that Nissan is adding a plug-in hybrid, this is huge to the Frontier. Now, they're saying they're planning it in 2028. We're only in 2025 right now. So, we're a long ways away. I'm a little bit surprised Nissan is saying by 2028, because I would think they would want to have a sense of urgency, and this would also give them better emissions ratings as well. But this is absolutely huge news for the Frontier, because, like I said, this gives us options. We can have multiple engine options, or we can have one engine option, maybe that V6 with the plug-in hybrid. That is a killer combo. And when you look at it power-wise and things, that's a great way for Nissan to kind of compete with the new Tacoma engine, or even like a Ranger potentially. But we also have some interesting news, because if you live outside of the United States, if you live in Mexico, if you live in Europe or Australia, New Zealand, Nissan pretty much has another midsize truck, very similar. It's called the Navara. Now, I've seen it. It's a phenomenal vehicle. However, Nissan is also saying something interesting here, because Nissan is also planning for the Navara to consolidate both Frontier and Navara into a similarly sized pickup sold outside of North America, consolidating both into one model. Now that's interesting, because we obviously know Navara is sold everywhere in the world but North America. The Frontier is very similar to the Navara, but it's built for the North American market, but very similar. One of the things with the Frontier is that it's built here in the United States, in Tennessee. However, personally, I think the Frontier looks better than the Navara, and I think it's a little bit more usable. But if Nissan is to consolidate that model into one model that can be sold worldwide, in the current situation that Nissan's in, that's a really good idea, because you can have all your resources focused into one truck with different options, but you can make it really well because it's going to be sold worldwide. We already know the Frontier is built here in North America. So, with current tariff situation going on and off, we know that, hey, listen, of all the other different types of vehicles out there, especially with the midsize truck, the Frontier tariff-wise is in a really good space to really receive the least amount of tariffs. And with the current kind of state Nissan's in, trying to rebuild, this is a really good way to focus all of your resources into one thing and really make a killer, outstanding product. And that just increases production, it increases efficiency. And they talk about it here, speaking on the Frontier's future, their chief planning officer for North America, it just makes sense for the life cycle for it to, become more compliant. And they say it will have to be electrified. Now, I hope when they electrify it, they still keep that V6, because that V6 is awesome. I really hope they don't go to a 4-cylinder. But it's a logical solution. Or, hey, offer that V6 and offer the plug-in. And you know what? Make us pay more for the V6 if we want the V6. Okay. But offer that plug-in, or, like I said, just do one engine. If you're going to consolidate this into one model, and you know that you build this truck worldwide, including here in America, we can retrain people. Let's consolidate this into one. Let's make it one engine. Let's give it that VQ V6, and let's give it a plug-in hybrid. That way we get the best of both worlds. So this is a really, really big model here. And this is really big news for the Frontier in general, not just because of the engine. Not just because of what they're doing with the engine, but the fact that they want to consolidate both the Navara and the Frontier into one model. I mean, they talk about it here, the use of a plug-in hybrid would be the ultimate solution, and they're still working on it. Obviously, we have the mid-cycle refresh. We still have that V6. It makes 310 horsepower and 281 pound-feet of torque. People love it. I love it. Everybody says it's like refreshing the old school, and it is. It's like I love driving my dad's 2003 Mazda Tribute with a V6. It's rough. It's awesome. I love driving a vehicle like that, and I love having that much amount of power. Now, obviously, with a V6 of that high output at 3.8 liter, you don't get a lot of fuel efficiency. But you know what? I'd rather take that, something that's been around for a little while and kind of more proven in things. But as they talk about it here, we've seen with Toyota with the iForce Max, a plug-in powertrain can definitely help the Frontier get more power and more efficiency. Now, I'm not saying this is going to compete with like a Ford Ranger Raptor. I'm not saying they're going to put a hybrid, it's a plug-in hybrid, it's going to give it 500 horsepower. But they can definitely do a plug-in hybrid that can give it more power, way better fuel efficiency, and then you are kind of competing a little bit more with things like the Tacoma. And you can still keep that V6. This is a really, really big opportunity here for Nissan. And here we talk about with the Frontier and the Navara becoming one. It's built here in Mississippi. So that's a little bit of a disclaimer there. I keep thinking of the VWs built in Chattanooga. But we know that the Frontier here is built in Mississippi. Now we know for the Navara, we build in terms of the North American market, they're built in Mexico. But the Navara is sold worldwide, so it's sold in Asia, in, like I said, Australia, New Zealand. The Navara is sold worldwide. So, having them share the same platform, having them share the same internal combustion powered or hybrid powertrains as markets dictate. So that means we can have options. We can have one option with the V6 or the hybrid, or a separate 4-cylinder plug-in hybrid with a V6. There are options we have. This is something that by combining them into one model, one platform, Nissan can really put all their energy, all their money into, and really make this a killer truck. And if they do one platform, it actually gives them a better chance of offering naturally aspirated V6 and something like a 4-cylinder plug-in hybrid, because everybody's focused on one thing. And efficiency-wise, platforms-wise, emissions-wise, you're kind of roughly all kind of competing with the same, area. So this is really, really, really big news for the Frontier, because the Frontier, since the refresh, has been amazing. It's been selling very, very well, especially with the current pricing of trucks and things. And the Frontier is a big model for Nissan, because this is kind of Nissan's last truck division. And the Frontier has actually been a really good nameplate for many, many years. There was a brief point in time where the Frontier was a little, on the broken side, but it's back now, and this is a really big model for Nissan. This is a model for Nissan that has a lot of heritage, makes them a lot of money. This is something really, really important for Nissan. I can't understate the importance of this. Let me know what you guys and girls think down below, because I think, honestly, if Nissan is going to combine them into one model, look at both, internal combustion engine and electrified powertrains, the ability to offer both, I think this is a monumental moment here for Nissan that they could take advantage of. So let me know what you guys and girls think down below. This is going to do it for now, though. Thanks for watching, everyone.